Very odd. Welcome to the live chat. So that's 0.2. Very sensitive. 0.2 millisecond sweep time, as in frame rate. See these standing waves, these sharp peaks too. You see how I'm creating negative voltage bias with the electrostatic potential, how the waveform goes. It's like a negative charge pump. So that's 0.1 sweep time. So that's our frame rate. And then we are measuring right now AC 50 millivolt signal. And as you can see, it's got a negative voltage bias. Oh, I just knocked it off. My bad. Let's go touch other spots. So that was touching this side of the full bridge rectifier. Excuse me. So that was the, I guess you could call it hot side. And now we're going to leave it here, but we're going to ground out to this other side. And I found out that if you touch this stuff, it transfers flux like amazing, like better than the core does. And so it kind of makes a bunch of cool noise. Oh. So let's put that back in. kind of hard to get everything in place. Okay, it's gonna fall out a bit. Maybe it'll stay there. Okay, so now we're on ground in this side of the full bridge rectifier, so that's the hot side, AC side. And we're on AC right now, and you can see that negative electrostatic potential. Some fuzz there. Try to get that out with the focus. But you can't really because the ground is in flux. We have a floating ground, obviously, touching that. So now we're at 5 millivolts, so you can really see that noise. I can't focus it out. But we can look at different sweep times and get an idea of how the waves stack. So we're at 1 millisecond sweep time right now. It's kind of like pulsing with the motor. There's another waveform. That is, I think, 2 milliseconds. I don't know, my knob's a little bit off. So let's scale that up, make it even easier to see. Oh, that's weird. Now it's saying negative 20 millivolts. What's weird is how it's saying it's different electrostatic potentials based off of, like, it's not constant volts per division necessarily is what I'm finding measuring this transformer. So, but I am measuring a constant negative 20 millivolts right there, almost no matter where I touch. And that's because even when I take it off through the air, it senses that negative electrostatic potential even, but it picks it up more in the transformer. So the transformer is transferring flux. So this is a transformer main core, and this is 1 inch thick laminated core. This is about 3 inches wide, and then the height of this is 11 inches, and then the depth of this is 13.5 inches or so. And the core here is copper plated, and this is about 3.5 inches from top to center line right here. And obviously it's bilaterally symmetric in every way. And if you look, there's 2 main iron rings right there, but it's actually split into 4 cores. So if I wanted to make a meg out of this, I could cut these and I could take these apart. They just pull right apart. They're loose. And then I'd have a nice U-shaped core to make it a motionless electromagnetic generator off of if I wanted to. Now, when you make your motionless electromagnetic generator, you got to remember that it's switching flux right here. And technically, there's impedance right here. And so if you put it right at the end, it'll have a different effect if you put it like 2/3 versus up here, right? So it's kind of like putting wire on a tuning fork and hitting the tuning fork. It's going to vibrate different depending on where you hit it. Same principle here. This thing is not hooked up in any way. As you can see, all the wires are loose. It's just sitting here. We're just measuring the ambient electrostatic potential in the room because we got this guy going. So we're going in the generator mode of this Bendini motor that I got from kenergy.store. And this is the motionless electromagnetic generator I made. And so we have bilateral symmetry, equal lengths on either side, generating a scalar wave. And we're collapsing the back EMF in this coil. We're creating a vortex here that goes in, down, but also we're creating a toroidal structure, electromagnetic field collapse. And the reason why it's shifted to one side is because we're biasing it. See, to make a plasma toroid, it has to have directional flow. And so this is what's giving it that directional flow of the flux. So this is a monopole configuration here with this wheel, and I believe south is in, north is out. And so I guess this is the south pole of this meg in the way this is generating the plasma toroid that we can't see. But it's not a static thing, it's a dynamic thing constantly in flux with these longitudinal waves. And obviously we're seeing these waves interfere and create an interference pattern on the O-scope, which is pretty awesome. So we'll just go across here the AC of side of the full bridge rectifier, and we're on 20 millivolts, so we're centered down at negative 22 millivolts right now or so, vibrating, oscillating there, and our sweep time is 2 milliseconds per frame, so that's 5 milliseconds. That's 10 milliseconds. So you can see it's just kind of smoothing out those oscillations. And when we go into smaller time frames, we see that it's multi-frequency. It's not just one. And we can see that more clearly. I guess this one. So we're on AC signal right now. Let's go to DC. All it did was clear up some noise. It's basically the same signal. It is the same signal, actually. It's the same waveform being picked up. It's pure electrostatic potential flowing through the room. Flowing through my body even. Picks it up through my body, picks it up across the room. So we're at 5 millisecond sweep time, DC mode. We're measuring 5 millivolts, very small energy, but nonetheless, it's still there. So it's just the principle of, okay, we can use pickup coils to recycle energy. We can basically make these batteries act as energy wells, if you will, and we're ringing them like a bell. And the placement of the batteries can affect this whole system, is what I found. And also touching things affects the system, and the environment affects it. And what I did is I added larger capacitance, and that made the SG mode go way faster. I turned it to generator mode, and it runs slower in this mode. It's in generator mode right now. And I had to turn up the pot all the way when I added this capacitance, because it sees more current and it's creating too much magnetic locking, and it's not timing it right and wants to speed up even more. I might need a larger pot or pots in series to continue experimenting with capacitor bank storage, but at least a very small one is necessary to capture those pulses and make it real power, but more importantly, to not have your system destroy itself with a positive feedback loop. Basically, what we're doing is we're using this as a little Casimir cavity, 0-point energy generator. There's light asymmetry in this capacitor. And you see, this is all light. We're dealing with light. And what I mean by that is that this is an iron core that's being pulsed. The iron core that's being pulsed is really light pulsing through it. And you could call that a hematite pulse, like the natural ultra frequency vibration of the material, if you will. And that rings back and forth. And whenever there's a change in density, you have essentially refraction. And with every refraction, there's a partial reflection. And so we're taking advantage of that property of light in these materials with this configuration. and we're using neodymium magnets, and it's hard to see, but there's welding rod core in there that are all sanded down to the right length and equal length, and basically we're pulsing that and we're generating harmonics. This motor likes a 5 millisecond duration. It seems to like around 100 hertz with this meg, and I'm making it act like an LC tank essentially with this little green capacitor in here, and that's like super small capacitance. I think that's 0.01 microfarad, 50 volts ceramic disc capacitor. And then as you can see, I got a boost converter MT3608 on there because I wanted to see, okay, I'm picking up these transient fields. I want to push voltage, use electrostatic potential, minimize heat loss, because we're dealing with energy recycling. But I wanted to take it a step further with the energy recycling with this back EMF principle and see if, hey, can I make these batteries ring and capture more energy than they're putting out? And the answer is yes, I can, and I have. And I've ran this almost continuously for I gotta check the time here. It's 8:36, and I got a little whiteboard here. I've been taking notes. Had to erase it a couple times, but so at 7 p.m. we're at 73 hours of total runtime. So we're at 74 and a half hours of total runtime with this motor. You have an auto transformer you need to put to use. Awesome. Well, I'll check you out and go onto your channel after this, and I'd like to see you put that to use. I don't know what an auto transformer honestly is to be like, but that's cool. Also, these crystals aren't hooked up to anything. They're just sitting here. I just figured maybe I can utilize the vibration of the table. Okay, you hear it change frequency? Well, I stepped in line with that, and that's where it's most sensitive. So the meg is most sensitive on this line of flux when I move my hand. It's actually a gravity wave detector I found. You can detect people moving around your house or moving. If you make it sensitive enough, you could detect people moving across the street and stuff. But anyways, that's besides the point. I already made videos that show that. What we're going to do is we're going to adjust this pot, and you're going to see this tuning change in real time, because it probably needs to be retuned. It seems like it needs to be retuned with the environment every once in a while, and if you don't, this will stop running. Like, it's not perpetual motion, but it is over unity. Like, it is 100% over unity. And I did it on my first try, so I know you can too. And I'm not saying that like I'm awesome or anything. I spent years researching before I actually tried to execute. But I don't want you to have to spend all that energy doing years and years of researching. I want you to just get to the good stuff and just like have a different perspective from the very beginning. And then you might just do leaps and bounds beyond me. That's my hope. Because I want to change the world, and I want you to change the world. I don't want us to be stuck. Okay. It's going to be hard to do this with the camera, so apologize. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to turn it down and give it a little bit more current. So you can hear it bog down. It doesn't like that. And I turn it back up a little bit. Hear it bog down again? So you've got to find the sweet spot of your potentiometer, and I probably just messed it up. But it doesn't matter. I'll get it going again if it stops. It does every time. Well, anyways, I hope these just like add a little extra energy from the piezoelectric effect just sitting there. I figured, okay, this is an energy pump. I'm sucking in energy. Maybe that'll just increase my odds of success. And they're also pretty to look at. And so these coils I got from the secondaries of this guy. So this is the full length of the secondaries, and they're equal length. And then this is a quarter of the secondary transformer cord. So I'll be right back. I'm gonna go get my other meg and the transformer stuff, and you can just watch this run in the meantime. So I told you earlier that it changes with the environment. So I figured, let's add some stuff to the environment and hear it change. I can definitely notice the difference. Maybe it's harder on camera. Let me turn on the light over here. So I got these off of this guy, and I just pulled it right off of here. And I kept it equal length and the full length. And so that core is actually, this is the long section. So that fits down in there like that. And then the smaller section is that guy right there. And the other smallest section is actually this core right here. I cut the legs off, so I just went bzz, bzz, and I had to obviously tape it so it didn't delaminate. But that's my iron core. Would recommend using a steel core instead. It works a little bit better. Maybe even stainless steel 304 specifically, because of how it refracts light. And that'll work a little bit better with the refraction of light through the flux. And also, you notice, a common theme of bilateral symmetry. Nature does that too, and there's a reason. And that creates, longitudinal scalar waves. So I saw this on Tim Tron's channel, and I found him through HeliArc, and I decided to just try it, and I was able to charge a 12-volt battery, one of these, after it died, by just hooking this up overnight. And so the idea is you tickle this core right here, and it pulses out like this, and the flux goes through both sides, and it comes back and makes a ringing effect like a bell. And so this would be your load that you would power capacitors or a battery or something. And as you can see, I just touched this with my hand and I didn't get fried. So it's not working right now because this is not being tickled with anything. really to transfer flux, you need some sort of pulse width modulation in here. However, this does pick up energy still on some level because of the transient fields in the environment. And it's just not enough to like be put to real good use until you pulse width modulate this. So I figured, well, I haven't messed with this honestly with pulse width modulating because my Arduino fried doing this project. But I did pulse width modulate this center core right here of this thin wire with an Arduino. And that was super handy. I would recommend using Arduino and just like a chat GPT to write some code for you if you don't know how, or if you want to save some time. And you can make really low energy circuits so you're safe, and you can still utilize all the same principles, and you can plot things in real time and see what's going on. And it's super handy to know like what's going on without having to do any math. You know, I didn't measure any wires. I didn't do any math. I just used an oscope in Arduino at one point for the meg. But, really, that's it. So what's going to be interesting to try is touching the meg here. That's kind of why I brought it in here. I want to see if this is picking up any transient energy fields. Too many wires. Okay, so this is my positive. At 1 volt, we're not going to see anything. So it sees my hand, so it's working. Oh, it picks something up. That's cool. So I am not even touching the negative yet. And the peaks are peaking at 0, and the troughs are at negative 50 millivolts. So we're centered at negative 25 millivolts, which is about the same as the other big, large transformer coil. So as you can see, when I touch it with my hand, it starts to even go in the positive. You know, got some positive. Anyways, so I ground it out now, and I touch it, and you can see it jump. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, let's... You see? Another pickup coil, free energy. And I know it's not much, but it's just sitting there for free. And if you're clever enough and you know how to swing on a swing with electromagnetism, you can build that energy. You can build it to a point where it'll destroy everything. It's so energetic. You'll have to control it, I promise you. You'll have to figure out a way of how not to do that. And how you do that is utilize smoothing capacitors in parallel across your battery, so your battery doesn't ring like so crazy to the point where it just goes out of control. Just hit it. Oh, it took the ground off. Okay, so right now we're at 10 volts per division. And as you, or sorry, my bad, 10 millivolts per division. So we're at 1, 2, 3, 3 to 4, 30 to 40 millivolts above 0. So that's real power. So as you can see earlier, when my ground was floating, we had negative voltage, and I connect my ground here, and now we have real positive power. So I just showed you how to extract radiant energy from the ether. It's capacitors. It's the Casimir cavity. And I also just showed you how to pick up energy. We can pick up energy with coils, and we can transfer flux. And the flow of the flux through the coil is what generates energy, right? There's no free lunch. You have to have transfer of flux. But God gave us everything we need, and He even takes care of a sparrow. How much more will He take care of us? You see, He gave us everything we need to be free. So we're at 0.2 volts per division, and it's going back to negative. Very odd. It's almost like there's standing with negative electrostatic potential standing around the room, and it's like make this whole O-scope ground go negative, because typically the ground will be at 0, and it's on ground right now. And look, I have a new relative ground even in my O-scope. Kind of interesting. It's almost like the relative ground in the wall socket this is plugged into is even different. Just saying. So we got Bendini, Meg, 0-point energy in these capacitors. We got basically these ringing, sucking in energy, and this responds to the environment. I walked in front of it, and it just changed in frequency. And so now I'll have to adjust the pot again. And there's my ground on my lamp there. So to show you that's truly a ground, touch it, no big deal. And as you can see, it really is running. Well, thank you guys for stopping by. I am going to call it a night. It's kind of late, and I got to work tomorrow, and there's plenty of experimentation to do that I don't have time for. But I just wanted to show a little bit more and show a live stream. This is my first live stream. I just want full transparency. I want people to see that, I'm willing to do this off the cuff on other people's live stream impulsively. I'm willing to do this impulsively with my own live stream. I'm not making these videos up as far as like anything like that. This is all genuine, and I hope this, makes us seem more genuine. And I hope to get real power extraction and in more obvious ways with this guy, and maybe even with this guy is my hope. So I'm trying to somehow do systems integration now at this point so that I can show it in a more obvious way that's definitive. Because, it's one thing to show that this can run for hours and hours and hours, but it seems like people still don't believe it, or they don't care, or something. Or maybe they just don't get it. I don't know. But I'm not getting the reaction from most people I think I would get, but some people are really stoked on it, but most people just seem indifferent, which is very odd to me. How could you possibly be indifferent to what I'm showing you? They don't understand that it can literally free them from poverty. It can free the whole world. And I want to show everyone that we don't have to be slaves anymore. And that's where I'm coming from, is just like, I want real freedom and sovereignty, and I want to love my country again. And I don't believe 0-point energy will be reserved for the craft, because if it is, we will remain as slaves. And that's unacceptable. It's not worth all the suffering. We can just be better. Anyways, that's all my rant. Have a great night. Thanks, Jessica. Thanks, Godheart Guardian, for stopping by, and have a good night.